Hello, today I'm going to be going over if ignore armor is more important on heavies than raw damage, and to find out, let's dive into the video. Before I show any test results, I'm going to explain the prerequisites for this test. To begin the test, I used Frida as the main subject for this test as she did not have any damage buffs whatsoever, meaning the test would be as accurate as possible. The test was also done against similar leveled enemies to retain some level of experience to reality. This inevitably led to having a hit rate against heavies at 80% with a shotgun. I then isolated each test broken into three subjects. Test 1 was 15% raw damage, the second test was 45% ignore armor, and test 3 was 50% ignore armor with 3 takes each to determine the maximum or a range of maximum damage cap amongst the three categories. The test results will now be shown on screen as followed in test 1. 15% raw damage test out of 3 shots was 948. Second shot was 840. Third shot was 790. The highest damage done is 948. For test 2, the numbers are as followed: 45% ignore armor, shot 1 850, shot 2 935, shot 3 935. The highest damage number recorded 935. And for test 3, 15% ignore armor, shot 1 946, shot 2 860, shot 3 1032. Highest damage number recorded 1032. Percentage differences for each max damage number as follow between test 1 and test 2 is 1.37%, and the percentage differences between test 2 and test 3 is 10.37%, and the percent difference between test 1 and test 3 is 8.86%. After witnessing how close test 1 and test 2 max damage cap were almost identical, I had a hunch that the difference between the two were caused by the one or between the two were caused by the 20% hit rate, the negative 20% hit rate we were suffering per shot. So I devised a second variable test with only two categories, one being the 15% raw damage and the other being the 45% ignore armor. And to ensure the test was as accurate as possible, I did 4 sets with 5 repetitions. 2 of these were raw damage and the other 2 sets ignore armor at 45%. Findings of this test results were astounding, and you will now see them on screen shortly as I go through the test results. For test 1 with raw damage, shot 1 790, shot 2 770, shot 3 790, shot 4 790, shot 5 869. For test 2 with shatter array, shot 1 935, shot 2 840, shot 3 1020, shot 4 770, shot 5 770. For test 3 with raw damage, again, shot 1 869, shot 2 869, shot 3 711, shot 4 948, shot 5 790. And lastly, for test 4 with shatter array, shot 1 935, shot 2 935, shot 3 1020, shot 4 770, shot 5 1020. Total amount of damage done by test 1 was 4009, and the total damage of test 2 was 4335. The percentage difference between these two was 8.13%. The total damage done by test 3 was 4187, and the total damage of test 4 was 4680, at a percentage difference of 11.77%. So I decided to compare my hunches previously that the 20% chance to miss was affecting the test results was somewhat accurate, as the percent difference between test 1 and test 2 is 8.13% divided by 5 is 1.61%, which is ominously close to 1.37% difference, and the difference percentage between each shot in test 3 and 4 was 2.3% per shot, which is a range of 1 to 2.5% difference on average per shot. Now, it might look somewhat inconsistent as each repetition did not do a stagnant percentage of increased damage, as some shots hit harder than others due to missing. After so much testing, this led me down to my final test theory. If armor ignore armor in the variation test performed far greater than raw damage, then the assumption would be that running full ignore armor is far greater than running raw damage and ignore armor together, seeing a percentage difference of about 10% when dealing damage to heavies. So I decided to test this hypothesis with a final test creating two categories. The first category was a mixed test consisting of the pressurizer and armor suppression backpack, and category 2 consisting of shatter array and the armor suppression backpack, and placing it under 5 repeated shots, then comparing the total damage of the two. The test results of the variation test 2 for category 1 were, for the mixed test, shot 1 was 946, for shot 2 is 776, for shot 3 is 1067, for shot 4 970, for shot 5 946, with a total damage of 4705, and for category 2 the results were, for shot 1 1111, for shot 2 946, shot 3 1010, shot 4 1032, shot 5 1212. The total damage number for this category was 5,311, equaling a percent difference of 12.88% or a 2.5% damage difference per shot out of 5 takes, favoring category 2, with a total of 95% ignore armor for the requirement. So after all this testing, it looks like ignore armor is obviously the answer for heavy mechs, leaving my final verdict that it is better to use shatter array and a armor suppression backpack to deal the most damage against heavy mech, bolstering a damage increase ranging from 10% to 15% increased damage. And thank you for watching. As always, I'll see you in the next video.